Alright, welcome back to Crabby. Today we're going to be looking at The Golden Ages, which is a really light civilization game, but you can think of it more like a Euro game with just a civilization theme slapped onto it. Alright, so this is going to be the setup and rules video. Alright, click the link below if you want to see the playthrough. And like usual, before we start, please like, subscribe, and comment on my YouTube channel. That'll be fantastic. Let's go. Alright, so let's take care of this up. So the first thing you're going to do is take out your game board, which is the ocean, and go get the only 2x2 map piece from the game box. Alright, this is going to start right in the middle of the board here when you start the game, and you can also tell by the discoloration of the ocean spaces here. Alright, when placing it down, you can also rotate it however you like. I just like to spin it, and that's how we're going to start. Alright, around the game board, you got your glory chits, your money chits. You got your other map tiles. Make sure to separate them by size, have them face down. You have your agora. All right, now for the different decks of cards. All right, you have the wonder deck here. Separate them by era and then shuffle them each separately. You're going to do the exact same thing for the buildings, and you're going to do the exact same thing for the civilization cards, but we're going to deal with this in a little bit. All right, on the side here, you're also going to have the future tech cards, and you're going to have the judgment history cards. All right, for these ones, you're going to shuffle the deck and lay out exactly 5. The rest can be thrown back into the box. One thing I did forget to mention is make sure to go through the building cards and use only the ones for your player count. Or for example, if I'm playing a 3-player game, I'll remove all the 4+ cards from those decks. All right. Now what you're going to do is for the civilization cards, you're going to hand an era 1, an era 2, and an era 3, and an era 4 card to each player. All right, they're going to start one of each. So each player is going to have a hand of a 1, 2, and 3, and 4 card. All right, you're going to do the exact same thing for the future tech cards. These are just end game goals. You're just going to hand one randomly to each player, and they're going to have it secretly in front of them. These cards are going to get flipped over at the beginning of every era, so we're not going to do it right now. All right, for each player's player area, we already mentioned these 2 decks of cards. All right, you're going to give them a player board, as you can see here, and you're going to have 12 technology tiles, or 16. All right, for the player area, we already talked about these 2 decks of cards. Now you're going to give them a player mat of their color, and they're going to have 16 technology tiles. They're going to be placed exactly where the picture represents on their sheet. All right, you're going to place the cubes as represented on the bottom left if there's a cube icon. The other 5 cubes are going to be placed right over here. You're going to hand every player $3 and you give them the rest of their colored markers. All right, and we're pretty much ready to go. All right, rules overview here for the Golden Ages. Now, this is a hard game to try to explain because even though it's thematically a civilization game, at its heart it's really a Euro game with an action selection mechanism, and what you're going to be doing is sort of civilization light. All right, you're going to sort of develop technologies, move around the map like you would in a civilization game, but you know what, if you say civilization game, you are expecting certain ways the game is going to function, and this game does not function like those games. All right, but we're going to go through the rules anyway, and I'll explain to you how it works. All right, now the game is going to make up for 4 rounds. They're called eras. So we're going to go from era 1 through era 4. Some of the decks of cards have different eras. All right, and each era is broken up into the same 4 phases. All right, you have the setup phase, you have the building of the map phase, you have the action phase. That's where we're going to be spending most of our time doing our actions. And finally, there's a cleanup phase. All right, at the end of 4 rounds and 4 phases, whoever has the most points, because it is a Euro game, is going to win the game. All right, so that's how we're going to teach the game. We're going to start with phase 1, work our way to phase 4, and then wrap it at the end. I'm going to show you how to score the game. All right, so let's go. All right, so the first phase, every single era or round is called the refresh step. All right, for this, you're going to do a handful of things. All right, first, you're going to refill the display for the wonders and the buildings for that era. Now, at the start of the game, we're going to obviously use era 1, but if you're in round 2, you're going to use era 2, and then 3 and 4. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to take cards equal to the number of players and then show them in the display. So here I'm going to simulate a 3-player game. So I'm only going to flip over 3 cards of each. All right, after that, each player gets to decide if they want to use their new civilization card. Now, at the start of the game, you don't have any, so you're obligated to use your civilization 1 card. Are you going to flip it over and use it? But let's just say this was round 2. All right, you'll slide this over to the side. You'll flip over your era 2 card. And you'll decide which of these 2 civilization characters you would want to use. All right, the one you don't use gets returned back into the box. So let's say I don't want to use this one, it's gone. All right, now in the top right of every single civilization card, there is a number. All right, it is unique throughout the game. All right, whoever has the highest number is going to be the new first player for that whole round / era. Right now, there's no first player marker in the game. What I like to do is just use a colored marker from a player who's not playing and just give it to them. All right, and that's going to be the first player marker. All right, or use whatever marker you have laying around. And that's pretty much all you have to do for the setup. Let's go to the next one. All right, so the second phase every single round is the map expansion phase, where we're going to be using the tiles to sort of expand the map where we're going to be exploring. All right, now, just for the first round of the game, we're going to be using the 3 square pieces here. And every other round after that, we're going to be using the double space. All right, the single ones were thrown in with the expansion if you are playing 5 players. So throw those in the box if you're not playing 5 players. All right, now the rules for the placement. Obviously, this starts with the first player. So they get to play a tile, and then everyone else gets to play a tile in turn order. All right, when playing a tile, pretty simple rule set. You just have to make sure that all the sides match. All right, so for example, this is legal, right? Because the land matches here and the water matches here. All right, you can also do something like this if you wanted. All right, as long as you're touching a tile that's already on the board, you can overlay on top of the islands, that's fine. You can overlay on top of tiles that are already there. So this is not a legal move. All right, but besides that, you can do whatever you like. So let's say I want to get close to this diamond piece over here. Maybe I'll do something like this. All right, now just for the first round of the game, after you place your first tile, you must place your capital. So this is called your capital piece, the little octagonal piece here, on one of the 3 spaces from that tile. So let's just say I want to put it here, and then you're going to place your 3 workers on the exact same tile. All right, and all the players are going to do that. So let's say player 2 flips over a tile and wants to do this for whatever reason, and does this. And then we have player 3 who has 2 land pieces here, and let's just say they want to do something like this. All right, so that's the first round of the game. Now, every round after that, when you're placing the tile, so remember, it starts with the first player going clockwise. You're going to flip it over and you're going to place it. All right, so let's say this one, I can put it like this. Now, as the red player, when you place your new piece, you get to decide if you want to move your capital or if you want to leave it where it is. All right, same rules apply. If you move it to the new tile, you must place it on one of the 2 icons showing. All right, so for example, let's say I wanted to move it over here. All right, all the workers that are on that current spot get morphed or moved with it. So these 3 will move with it. But if there was a worker that was on a different space, let's say over here, and I move my capital, well, that worker would stay where it is. All right, and all the other players can do the exact same thing. So let's say player 2 moved. All right, places this, but let's say they decide to stay there, and then player 3, let's just say they did the exact same thing like this, and they decided to stay. All right, that's pretty much the end of phase 2. All right, now phase 3 is the action phase, and that's where you're going to be spending most of your time while playing the game. All right, so this is done in turn order as well. Now, for all the actions in the game, they're all displayed on your player board over here. So you have 4 on the left here, which require a worker. That's why they're separated. And then you have 4 over here that don't require a worker. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all these actions. All right, the first action is the expand action. That's where you're going to be using your workers on the map to try to found cities and get the resources that you see. All right, so pretty simple. What you're going to do is you're going to grab any one of your workers that are standing up. All right, laying down means they've already activated. So a standing up worker, and you can move them horizontally or vertically. You can move diagonally. All right, now your movement speed is based on your technologies. All right, so at the start of the game, you can only move 1, as you can see over here. All right, but you can unlock technologies where you can move 2, 3, and even go wherever you like. All right, but let's just say it's the beginning of the game. I'll move 1, and I'm going to go over there. All right, now movement rules. You can move over water, it's fine. If you go off the side of the board here, you actually circle around like a real world. All right, you can even go on spaces where other people have characters and cities. All right, nothing blocks you. All right, but you won't be able to found the city there if there's a city already there. But you could found the city if somebody else's worker is there, for example. All right, but let's just say I want to move here. Now, after you finish your movement, if there's no city in your current space, you can found the city. Now, to found the city, what you can do is you're going to take one of your cubes. I pretty much just call these city cubes, and you're going to place it on that space. All right, now whenever you build a city in this game, as you can see from this technology here, you're gonna make $1. All right. You also have to keep track of other icons that you'll uncover in technology. So whenever you see a red square or circle, it's when you gain that type of resource, you'll gain a coin. So I went on a space with a deer. As you can see over here, I gained control of it, so I'm going to gain a coin. So by performing this move, you'll take 2 coins from the general supply and add it to your personal supply. All right. Now, when you finish the expand action, you'll lay down that worker because you already activated this round. At the end of the round, you'll see that we're going to stand them all up. One rule I did forget to mention, you cannot found cities on the islands that are printed on the game map. All right, you can only gain control of them by having a character on there. All right, now the second action to talk about is the build action. All right, and that's how you build the building cards on your player board. Now to do that, you're going to take any of your workers that are on the not activated, so not lying down, and you're going to place them lying down in the agora. When you do that, you get to take any of the building cards. Now they don't cost anything. You just take it and you're going to put on your player board if you could place it. All right. There is a requirement. So the first one you could place no matter what, because you have the technology here, which is fire. So you can place a building on the number 1 slot. Now in the future, if you want to build in the number 2 and number 3 slot, as you can see here, you need writing for the number 2. And you're going to need a, I believe this is the bank, to build number 3, for example. And that's it. All right, the next action is the artist action. And this is basically if you have nothing better to do with your worker, you can just lay them down in the agora and gain 3 points. 1, 2, 3. All right, the fourth and final action that requires a worker is the combat / soldier action. All right, this is pretty much identical to the expansion action, except you're going to get rid of all the cubes and pieces of an opponent's colored pieces. Now this is deterministic combat, so as long as you can pay to do the action, well then you automatically win. All right, so let's look at our player board over here, and the combat action is the one on the bottom right. And as you can see up here, you can do at most throughout the game 4 combat actions, and what you see in the middle is the cost of performing the action. So the first time it's 3 coins, then it's going to be 5, then 8, and now 12. All right, there are ways to get extra combat actions throughout the game, but by default you do have 4. All right, so let's say it's the first combat I do in the game. It's going to cost me 3. So I'm going to take 3 coins and add it back to the general supply. Now, when you perform the action, before I even move a character on the board, I'm going to take one of these glory chips and cover up that space. Now, these tokens, all they represent are end game scoring points. They're random. They range between 3 and 6, I believe. All right, and now I'm going to do the combat action. Now, like I mentioned before, you're going to move exactly like you would in expand. All right, so first you're going to look at your technology to see how far you can move. So let's just say I can move 2. I can either do combat here, I can do combat here, or I can move 2 spaces and do combat here. So you can attack a worker, a city, or a worker and a city. All right, but let's just say it's the beginning of the game. I can only move 1 and I want to do combat right over here. Like I mentioned, deterministic combat. So any characters that are currently in that spot or workers are going to go back to the capital. Now, if they were lying down, they're going to stay lying down, but if they're standing up, they're going to stay standing up. And any cities get returned back to their personal supply to be placed later on. All right, now just like expansion or expand action, you also get to place a city if you have one in your personal supply. So if I did, I'm going to do it. All right, and just like expansion, by placing a cube, it'll make at least a coin, and then you might have a technology where you'll make more than 1 coin after that. All right, and obviously just like expansion, when you perform the action and you finished, you're going to lay down your worker and you're pretty much done. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, the next set of actions, so these 4 over here, don't require a worker to be performed. All right, so the first one up here is taking a wonder card. Now, taking one of these cards is going to cost you money. All right, so let's look at the anatomy of a wonder card here. So the cost of a wonder is what's on the left of the dash here. So it's going to cost you 3 coins. But if you currently have this leader, I know it's a very, very small icon, but if you do have this leader, it's going to cost you the number indicated on the right. So it'll only cost you 2 coins. All right, once you pay, you'll just play this card in your play area. Now, whenever you take a wonder, lightning bolt symbol means you get this right away. And these gears, I'm going to talk about in a second, are action abilities. All right, so let's say I gain this card. All right, now the second set of actions here are the gears, like I just mentioned. So what you're going to do is you're just going to activate one of your cards. So let's say this has a gear. I can activate the card by tapping it, and I'll just gain the benefit of that card. So this can be either buildings, which is the orange, or wonders, which are purple. All right. The next action is gaining a technology. All right, so pretty simple. You're going to look at your player board over here, and you're going to pay the cost of the technology you want to unlock. You must always go from left to right as well. You can't start unlocking level 5 technologies without unlocking 4 or 3 or 2 before it. All right, but let's say I had 3 coins and I want to get this technology. I would pay, I would remove the tile, any cubes that are currently there, go into my personal supply. I'll remove this tile. Some of them might have victory points on the back. That's why you want to keep these. All right, and now you currently have that technology. They all get activated right away. All right, and this technology here gives me access to another building card, and other technologies will do other things. All right, and the last action to talk about is the Golden Age action. This is pretty much just passing. Now you can only do the pass action if you've activated your workers and they're all laying down. Well, let's say red wants to pass, they've activated all their workers. What they're going to do first is they're going to turn their capital to the stickered side, so you see the number 2 on it. Now the reason you do that is if it reaches your turn again and you've already passed, well, you don't do an action, but you do get 2 coins from the general supply, and then I'll move on to the next player. So if you pass early and it passes your turn 3 times before the end of the round, you'll make an extra $6 from the general supply. All right. Another thing that's going to happen is if you're the first person to pass, you're going to take the judgment history card that's going to be scored that round. All right, you can take any of them in the display. So let's say for whatever reason I wanted this one, and you're going to place it in the Agora, which means that's the card that's going to get scored. All right, only the first player gets to do that, the first person who passes. Every other player, it doesn't really matter. All right, and finally, after everyone's passed, you're going to go to the final phase of the round, which is sort of the cleanup phase. All right, you're going to follow this exact order. First, you're going to score the judgment card that was previously taken by the person who passed first. All right, these are all explained in the back of the manual, but for example, this one, for each wheat you control, so have a city or have a meeple worker, you'll score 2 points. I mean, when you score, just move yourself up on the track. All right, after that, all your cities, obviously, you're starting a new round, you're going to flip them all over to their unpassed side. After that, you're going to stand up all your workers. All right, you're not going to move their location on the map. The ones that are currently in the Agora, you're going to stand them up, but you're going to add them to your capital. For example, like so. After that, each of these cards that were not taken, so cities, wonders, and also the judgment cards, these you can throw back in the box. They're not going to be needed anymore. And finally, if you've activated any buildings or wonders, you're going to untap it, or if you're using the method of flipping them over, you're going to unflip it over. All right, and then you're ready for the next round. All right, well, there you go. Those are all the rules to the game. So the last thing to mention is what the end game scoring is going to be. All right, so after the 4th era, so the 4th round and the 4th phase, you're going to go to end game scoring. So the end game scoring consists of 5 things. First being obviously where you currently are on the track. Pretty obvious. Second, for every 3 gold, you're going to score a point. So there's 3, so I'll score a point. All right, after that, you're going to turn over all your glory chips that are currently on your board, and you're going to get an assortment of points. You're going to add that to your total. After that, you're going to add up all the total of all the technologies that you have. So just calculate them all together. Like all the era 2s score one specific thing, which is 0. Then they all score a bit more and a bit more. And finally, the last era will all score you 4 points. But you get a grand total, give yourself that amount of points. And finally, the last thing is your future technology card, which is the blue card you were dealt at the start of the game. All right, now these are pretty self-evident. Whenever you see this symbol, it means have the most of. So if you have the most mines from all the players on the table, you're going to score the points. All right, for any ties, you do not get the points. All right, you need to be alone in first. And if you meet the requirement here, you'll score the point. And there you go. Everyone's going to do that. You're all going to compare score, and whoever's the most is obviously going to win the game of Golden Ages. Well, there you go. That's how you play. Click the link below if to see my playthrough, and let me know if I made any mistakes. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Later.